Oops. Okay. Good afternoon. I am Katissa Johnson. I am one of the counselors here at Chattahoochee High School. We are going to have hopefully about an hour and a half of presentation this evening for the 2024 seniors and parents. We are going to go over a number of things that students and parents need to know beginning the senior year, as well as talking about post-secondary options and some of our processes and procedures for college applications and getting documents processed through our office, as well as documents processed for college applications in general. I want to let everyone know that this presentation is being recorded, and so we can make it available to those who are not able to attend with us tonight in the next couple of days, definitely by the end of the week. I'm not certain if you all can see see me on the screen here, but I'm going to turn off my camera so that you all can focus on the presentation itself. We are live in the chat. Counselors, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we're joined by the other counselors in the office. I believe that Ms. Jones, Mrs. Chilson, Ms. Blunt, Mrs. Turner are all on the chat, and they will be answering questions throughout the presentation. Of course, more questions will be answered as we go along the way. So if you want to kind of maybe see or wait to ask your question after the portion I am sharing, and I'll go through the agenda in a second. After we reach that portion in the agenda to see if your question will be answered, we'll probably get through a little quicker. So my goal is to try to be done by an hour and a half, and that is with presentation and questions. So I'm trying to bear that in mind. So let's advance here. And Mrs. Smith, the sponsor for the yearbook, has asked that I share this information with you all. If you want to take a picture, this information is also going to be loaded on the senior page, which I will talk about in a few minutes. But this is just information about getting your yearbook, of course, and getting your portraits for the yearbook. Remember, the cost for yearbooks always increases as you go on. So, and then they do get to a point where they've actually sold out. So don't delay. Make sure that you order your yearbook. Make sure that you take your senior portrait so that that can be available for the yearbook. And go ahead and take a picture of this information because I'm not certain when it's going to be available on the website. I do believe that it's going to be soon. So tonight's agenda, we're going to cover a number of things, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to talk about the basics, which is finishing high school. This is the beginning of the fourth year of high school for seniors. We're going to go over post-secondary planning, what your plans are after high school, the college application process as an overview, the college visits here at Chattahoochee and at the college itself, paying for college, so financial aid, HOPE, as well as scholarships, other important things like entrance exams, NCAA, how to apply to college, how that process works. I'm going to have some closing thoughts on college applications, just understanding the flow. And then we will talk about senior check-ins and the signups for or being able to sign up for an appointment with your counselor that we're going to have starting next week. All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the basics. We are starting the beginning of your last year of high school, so let's make sure we've got some groundwork covered. Everyone should know their counselor at this point. You certainly met with your counselor last year for junior advisements, but we did do a little bit of a split change for this school year, so we want to make sure that everybody's familiar. In particular, Ms. Chilson has A through DAQ. I have DAR through H. That is where the change has happened. I used to have a little bit higher up in the H's, and now I have all of the H's. So your last name begins with H. You are now with me instead of Miss. Well, it says Fitzsimmons, but she has recently gotten married, so her name is Mrs. Turner. She has I through MAR. Ms. Blunt has MAS through SAH, and Mrs. Jones has SAI through Z. There are other support staff in our counseling office. They are very instrumental in helping us to support students throughout the year, certainly helping with our seniors, trying to make sure that everyone gets across the stage. Please go and check out our counseling page so that you are familiar with other support staff that is available to assist you as we go throughout the year. So staying connected, there are some social media sites that we like to post on. We have, of course, all of our seniors are on a Teams account at this point. So your counselor that is assigned to you has loaded you in a Teams account. So if you hadn't noticed, go in there and take a look. You should have seen the notice for tonight's meeting. You also will see an assignment in there. I'm going to touch on that in just or as we go through the presentation. But everybody's been added to your senior teams. You can find us on Facebook, as well as Twitter, and then as well as we usually put information on the Hooch Happenings, which is put out by our principal. I just want to make a little note here about making sure that you check Infinite Campus for your grades. Parents, I know students are in their last year of school, but it is so super important that you continue to monitor your child's progress. The senior year, sometimes we have some students that kind of take their eye off the ball, and then we end up in trouble for graduation. So please still check Infinite Campus for your seniors, their attendance, as well as other documents. Okay, so this is the page that I was referring to, senior graduation information and information for seniors in general. You have your own page. So this is the page you'll want to refer to throughout the year, because we'll often get questions about graduation. We'll get questions about cap and gowns. That information is not actually monitored, nor is it posted by the counseling office. It's actually posted by the administration and other members throughout our building. So we have one collective space for seniors to be able to check and parents to be able to check so that they can keep up with what activities are happening for our seniors. So if you log on to the chatcougar.com and you go to the bottom looking for seniors and graduation information, which is what's highlighted here, you will be able to see the senior page. I think at this point, you may see something about yearbook. You may see something about of course, you will see something about tonight's presentation, but as you go along, cap and gown information, senior treats, all of that stuff will be posted in that particular space for seniors to be able to keep up and parents to be able to keep up with information on their seniors. Okay, so this page is really just a reminder about your graduation requirements. We have been kind of beating the drum about this every single year that you've been in school. The counselors are monitoring this information, but it is important that you are fully aware as well, because some of you are holding out graduation requirements because you are taking it through dual enrollment or you're taking it online. It's just important that you are clear about your graduation requirements. So this is just an overview. I'm not going to read through the whole thing because you should be pretty familiar with it. What I do want to say about it is, remember, there are the specific graduation requirement, the courses that you have to have, but also the total credit. You can have the total credit without having the specific courses. You can have the specific courses without having the total credit that you need, especially if you took a senior course reduction. Be very, very careful about your credit total to ensure that you are going to finish with 23 credits to meet your graduation requirements. Remember, Students did not have to have world language in order to get their high school diploma. So there won't be an issue with you getting your high school diploma. But in most instances, kids needed 2 to 3 years of the same world language credit in order to meet the college admissions requirements. This is one of those places where you really want to have done your research and looked at what the colleges were expecting, so you are sure that you have met that requirement for them. Those who have not met their personal fitness waiver, or I'm sorry, personal fitness requirement, be sure that you have submitted your waiver if that is what you are intending to do. You will see the waiver on the front page of the school's website at the bottom. Look for the Running Man. Or you are probably scheduled for personal fitness in the second semester of your senior year. So we are at the end of the road. All students must have their personal fitness requirement met at this point. So more than likely, if you had not met your waiver or had not submitted a waiver and you had not taken a personal fitness, you probably have that course in the second semester of this school year. All right, so we wanted to just kind of make sure that we threw this in here because we always get questions about graduating with honors. And in most cases, what people are talking about are honor scores. This information is in the student handbook, but honor scores are determined at the end of the first semester. It is the cumulative average that you have on your transcript. So for summa cum laude, those students have a 96 average and above. Magna cum laude, those students have a 92 and above, and cum laude, those students have an 88 or above. There is no rounding. So if you have an 87.999, you will not earn the cum laude status. So that is usually noted in the graduation program. We don't usually read it. We stop reading the designation, but it is noted in the graduation program. And after the first semester is when we determine whether or not you have met that requirement for those particular designations. All right, so let's go on into post-secondary planning now that we have covered the housekeeping for graduating from high school. So post-secondary options, I want to talk about it in a broad way like that. Post-secondary options meaning what your choices are or what your plans are after high school. So students have multiple choices after high school. The vast majority of our students will go on to college. So we will devote a good portion of our presentation tonight to that process, but I want to be mindful and I want to remind parents and students that students do have choice about what they do after high school. Some students will go to a 2-year college, some will go to a technical college, some will go to a 4-year college, some will take a gap year. A gap year is when a student goes and they will take a year off from school, and lots of times they will do some kind of missionary work, or they will study abroad, or they will have some plan for what they do with their gap year. Some students will go on into the military. Naviance now has an exploratory feature for students that are interested in exploring that option. There are students that are going to go into the workforce. They're going to go directly from high school to the workforce. There are some apprenticeships that students can go into. And so students will be using Naviance as a search tool for exploration for those different areas. There is a neat little handout that our district has pulled together to kind of talk through those different options. This little graphic here on the right-hand side is actually that graphic that I'm speaking of, but that link underneath will take you to that graphic if you want to read and get some more detail about that information. We really want you all to share your plans with us. Tell us what your thoughts are about where you intend to go after high school to kind of help us know what information to provide to our students and who to provide it to. So we ask that you go into Naviance and you complete the task that is listed there as Class of 2024 Post-Secondary Plan Survey. That is this little box that's at the very bottom. If you will take that survey for us, that will help us to understand what your intentions are. Do you plan to take a gap year? Do you intend to go to the military? That's just going to help us kind of get ourselves together to better meet your needs. All right. So at the start of the senior year, what are we doing here? So as I said, many of our kids are going to go on to four-year college or two-year college. So we're going to talk through that process. So many of our students rather started the process last year, right after the junior advisement. We had long discussions about what kind of time frame to be on, what things needed to happen from that point in planning for college. Lots of kids got on it and started working from that point. We do know that there are some kids who were not able to focus in their junior year to get planning for this school year, but that's fine. We want to kind of pull things together now. So if you're at the start of the senior year, what should you be doing? So investigate your options for after high school. If you're going to apply to college, you should be getting a list together pretty quick, narrowing down a list of schools to which you're going to apply. You should have at least taken one SAT or ACT. If not, you definitely need to sign up. I'll talk about that in a second. Begin working on your applications. Create a timeline for the application process and write down your dates and deadlines so that you can be efficient through this process. There's still time. So you will find that as I talk through this regular admissions timeframe, we still have some months before we get to the regular admission timeframe. So there is time for you to do some research and use the Naviance portal to find schools as well as other search engines if you want to schedule some visits, to meet with college reps, to do some research on the college websites about your interest. Consider maybe two-year colleges if you want to start small and then possibly transfer. If you have not signed up for the SAT or the ACT at this point, you will want to do that right away. There's a test coming up on October 7th for the next SAT. The registration deadline is September 7th for that test. The next ACT is going to be October 28th. And the registration deadline for that particular test is going to be September 22nd. So these hyperlinks that you see here are active, so you can use the hyperlinks on this presentation. If you're not sure about how to get to the particular company's website to make those registrations, or you can just go on Google, type in collegeboard.org or act.org, and you can go ahead and start an account and get registered for the next test that's coming up. Also, if you are interested in trying to obtain a scholarship, you'll want to start your scholarship searches and create a timeline of dates as well as deadlines to begin that search as well. On the right here, you see the moving forward graphic. This is just trying to have a nice little easy 1, 2, 3 graphic for you to kind of follow to apply to college. This actually came out at the end of the summer. You would have seen something like this come from the district to try to encourage students to be organized and to be encouraged to start the college application process. All right, so we're going to just do a quick little process overview for you for the application process. I like to talk about applying to college. People talk about, I'm going to do my college application, but I want to reframe that thinking a little bit to make sure that people understand that when you are applying to college, you're actually completing a file and the application is a part of the file. So this little graphic kind of helps you to understand exactly what you're doing. So in the middle, you see that the admissions office has this file, and what you're going to need to submit to them are a number of things. You see out here to the right that the application is one part of that. You will also have to give them a fee for processing your application or submit a fee waiver. transcripts, your teacher recommendation, if that is required by them, a school rec or a school, I'm sorry, not a school rec, a school report or a counselor recommendation or both if that's required. And then also your entrance exams, which is the SAT or the ACT. All of those items together create a file for you at the college. And once they have all of the items that they require for them to do an admissions review on you, then your application is complete. So that is really what's needed, is for you to complete a list of items, or you to submit a list of items so that the college can review your or to make an admissions decision on you. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear. It's not just an application. There is a list of items that you actually need to turn in. So when colleges are determining your entrance to their school, or whether or not they're going to offer you entrance to their school, there are a number of factors that they are considering. So there are some objective factors that are considered in the process, and those would be things like your GPA, the grades you've actually earned in your academic courses in many cases. In some cases, it would be your academics and your elective classes, but that is by institution. In most instances, it is the grades and the overall GPA or the core GPA for your academic courses. Another objective factor that is considered is your test score, so SAT and ACT. Now, we know that after COVID, things got a little interesting with the entrance exams. Many colleges decided they did not need to have test scores in order to determine entrance to their college. So it is possible that you will see some schools be test optional. So you'll want to investigate the schools that you are interested in particular, to see what their requirements are, whether or not SAT or ACT is a part of their entrance requirements still, or if they have some other way for you to submit information. Or I'm sorry, not another way for you to submit information as to whether or not test scores are needed. Another objective factor is the rigor of the courses that you took. Now, not all colleges require rigorous courses. There are some colleges where that is definitely the expectation. So it totally depends on the institution itself. The more selective the college it is, the more rigor will come into play. Now, some subjective factors. So once the objective factors are already in place by that college's expectations or standards or trends, then they may turn to more subjective factors. There are some colleges where the objective factors that I just went over is it. They have a number, you hit the number, you're in. There are many colleges where the objective factors are kind of what gets you in the door, and then the subjective factors come into play. And many of those colleges have a more holistic process that they go through, and they will include things like your essay, letters of recommendation from teachers, your counselor, extracurricular activities, leadership roles, your resume, interviews, portfolios, um, your demonstrated interest, as well as now SAT subject test. Actually, I'm going to remove this from the presentation because that actually is no longer a part of, or College Board is no longer offering that. So that is not something that is considered anymore. So let's talk about different types of admissions processes. So we usually talk about kids applying to college, and we usually only talk about like early decision or regular decision. But there are actually several different types of applications that kids can submit, and different timeframes that kids can submit their applications in. So regular decision, that is just a student that is submitted by a specific date. They've received their decision, or they've submitted by a specific date to receive their decision in a clearly stated period of time. That commitment is not binding. Kids will apply to multiple different schools using a regular decision process. There is also a rolling admissions process. Now, those students will submit their applications, and usually sometimes 6 to 8 weeks, and in some cases 3 to 4 weeks, the college is making decisions on a cycle, and they are letting students know what the decision is for their application. The commitment there is a non-binding. So kids will mix sometimes rolling admissions decisions with regular admissions. They will do several rolling admissions, colleges. So that is something that students can do as well. There are some schools that offer early action, like UGA, for example. Those students are applying early so that they will get their decision early, but that is not a binding decision. And in many instances, the college explains that there is no real advantage to applying early except just knowing early. There are some restrictive application processes, and restrictive meaning that there is um, some sign-offs that you're doing. So, for example, if you do early decision, usually you are signing that you are going to take that admissions decision if they offer it. This is like a first choice commitment that you're making to the college. And if the college offers you admission, you are signing that, yes, I'm going to take it. That is considered binding. There are some early action restrictive processes where students are only able to apply early to one school. Oftentimes, we as counselors, especially if you're using Common App, are asked to sign off that you understand this is what you are committing yourself to. And so you're only allowed to have one early decision application in Common App at once. There are some instances, if you have signed a binding commitment, where the college may let you out of that commitment. That is something you will want to speak directly to the college. In the instance that I have seen, it has become financial. So a lot of times you don't get your financial aid information until months later after they have admitted you. And so if you find that the financial aid package, uh, you are still not able to afford to attend the college, a lot of times they will work with you. So that's something you'll want to just pursue directly with the college. Please know that some scholarships and other programs like honors programs are tied to different admissions processes. So lots of times, financial aid um, will be tied, like for example, scholarships may be offered to those students who are doing early action or early decision. And so if you wait to regular decision and you're hoping to get those scholarship funds, they may have already been distributed. Students who are interested in honors programs, many times they are pulling from their early action or early decision applicants. So you'll just want to research to see if there are any particular programs that you're interested in, as to whether or not you have to apply at a certain time period, or if you are interested in a specific merit scholarship or need-based scholarship, whether or not there is a specific time frame that you need to submit your application so that you can be considered for those funds. All right, so you heard me talk about that graphic, and there's different items that you have to turn in. Um, the usually kids then become a little baffled about how they get certain things. So I'm going to just kind of go through that real quick with you all so that you're clear. Um, the college application itself. You are usually going to go directly to the college's website. You can use Naviance to help you. You can just Google that particular college, and you can get the college application. I'll go through that a little bit later. Just a basic process that you could go through to do your application. But oftentimes kids are using the Common App. They're going to use the Black College application. They're going to use the Coalition, or they're going to use the application for that college directly. You're going to pay directly on the college's website, or you're going to pay directly through these application databases for your application itself. So it goes directly with your application, the uh, college application fee, or submitting the fee waiver usually will also be through those platforms as well. Make sure that you complete any supplemental information or documentation that they ask for. So essays, portfolios, make sure that you add any supplemental things for the particular college of interest. So you may be doing a Common App and there's a certain part of it that is shared between most colleges, but then there may be one college in particular that asks for some supplemental items. Without you submitting that, your application to that particular college will be incomplete. So make sure that you are fully going through to see if any supplemental items are needed. Test scores. So as we talked about just a minute ago, test scores are done directly with the testing company. So either College Board or ACT, if you go back a couple of slides, you'll be able to go directly on those links to go back to that page and you may request your test scores. We do not put test scores on transcripts, nor do we send them to the college. That is something you have to do directly with the company so that it is considered official. So counselor letters of recommendation. So this is kind of a two-part thing. Counselors will write letters of recommendation if the college requires it. So there's a couple of reasons for that. There are nearly 500 seniors. So we will certainly write a letter of support for you if you need one, but we want to make sure that we have enough time to write the letters of recommendation for those kids that do need it. The other part of it is typically if it is not a required part of the application, the college is not going to consider it. So if you need a letter of recommendation, especially if you're using a Common App, we are able to see that very clearly. You will need to submit a senior profile, which is the assignment that I said is in teams for each one of our counselors. You will need to complete that once. It needs to be turned in at least 10 days before the deadline. So if you need a letter of recommendation, we will certainly give it to you, but make sure that you turn in your senior profile assignment beforehand. If you do not need a letter of recommendation, there's no need for you to spend the time to complete the senior profile. Much of what you would put in the profile, you would actually add into the application itself. So there's no need for you to do double work. So if you don't need an actual letter of recommendation, go through your colleges and see whether or not that's something you need. There's no need for you to submit a senior profile. Teacher recommend.
Johnson,
Yes.
popping in just real quick. Just want to make sure it's clear to the parents and students on that it's 10 school days. So weekends, holidays, breaks, those are not included in the 10 days.
Yep. I'm gonna actually go a little closer into that in a slide a little bit later on. But yes,
Okay,
Ms.
thank
Blunt
you.
is right. 10 school days in advance. So teacher recommendations. So the counselors do not handle the teacher recommendations. That is something that you get directly from the teacher themselves. Please go and talk to your teacher. I will talk about this a little bit later. Talk to your teacher directly and ask them before you just send an email saying, so-and-so would like for you to write a letter of recommendation. You want to make sure that that teacher feels like they can support you. So you'll want to get that recommendation directly from the teacher. Many times, like for example, in Common App, you are going to be putting their information in Common App. So you should have gone to the teacher before you actually add that information in there. Transcripts. Okay, so we've kind of gone a couple of ways with doing transcripts. So we are going to be submitting transcripts directly through Common App if you're using the Common App or Coalition, or they are using the college is using some other kind of application database. The counselor will put it directly into the database. However, if it is an application where it is asking you to ask the school for a transcript, then you are going to make that request through the Scrib order. The link for the Scrib order is there, right here, and you will complete the information there, and then the request will go to our records coordinator, Ms. Movisia, and she will actually process that for you. The counselor won't even see it. It will just go directly out through the Scrib order. If you need an unweighted transcript, this happens rarely, but if you need an unweighted transcript, all of our transcripts are weighted to start, every last one of them, and we will report them weighted unless you complete a choice form and you turn that into Miss Movisia Leal in our records office here in the counseling office. If you submit that to her before you make any request, and we can only do it one way. You can't have it weighted in one place and unweighted in another place. We can only do it one way. So you got to make your decision about how you're going to do it. If you're going to turn in a choice form, then you need to turn that in before you make any requests so that we can make sure we upload the correct transcript for you, an unweighted transcript for you. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't have it listed here, but if you are reporting your transcripts yourself, you are doing a self-report for the college, which many of them now ask you to self-report. All you're going to do is pull up Infinite Campus, and you're going to pull up under Documents, and I think it says More. You will get your transcript that way. Pull up your transcript and then pull the information directly off of that, and you are going to put it in the system and self-report it yourself. Okay? You're just using what's in Infinite Campus. All right. So I am going to get a little closer on some of these things in a couple of more slides, but this is just an overview where you go to get what. All right. So let's talk about college visits. So college visits are done in two ways. If you are interested in seeing the reps that are coming to see us, we have lots of reps. If you haven't been on Naviance, I would encourage you to go on there. This is the directions for how to get to the rep visits. And the rep visit means that this is an admissions representative. Oftentimes it is the person that is going to be looking at the applicants from this area at their particular college. They will set up meeting times for them to be able to talk directly to students. So if you are interested in going to a rep visit, we usually have that listed on the sandwich board so you can see what's coming up. You can go onto Naviance using these directions here, and you can register directly with Naviance. Let me go to the next page and then I'll explain. So you can get up to 7 on-campus visits here at the high school. So please make sure you talk with your teacher prior to signing up to ensure you're not going to miss something really important in class. You should do your research about the college before you come to the visit. You don't want to embarrass yourself. Remember, a lot of times that's the same person that's going to see that application. So you want to come prepared with questions, make sure that you show your interest in that particular college. The dates are posted on Naviance as well as that sandwich board out in front of the counseling office. I know lots of you guys have walked by, you've seen that sandwich board up front. Ms. Bonaventura keeps that board updated for us so that our kids are aware of colleges coming on our campus. As well, students can go off campus and go directly to the college to visit. You get 6 pre-approved absences from school. Visiting colleges can be one of the reasons that you ask for a pre-approved absence. There is an actual form that you will fill out. It is in attendance. As it stands right now, what they're asking is that you bring a letter from your parents saying, hey, my student is going for a college visit on X day. They will give you the form to get filled out by the teachers, and then you will be able to get your pre-approved absence signed off on. If you're doing a virtual visit that happens to be during the daytime, this actually came about during COVID, so I'm not certain if colleges are still doing it this way where it would interrupt the school time. But if you do have one, you can bring a note from the college on the letterhead to attendance. We do have some virtual, or there are some virtual college fairs coming up done by NACAC. These are the dates for which the virtual college fairs are going to happen. So September 10th, there's one happening in, I guess that's next week. So if you're interested in attending, here is the registration link so that you can go in and do the college virtual fair. All right, let's shift gears and let's talk about paying for college. We're going to talk about financial aid. We're going to talk about scholarships as well as Hope and Zoe scholarship. All right, so first things first, we have financial aid coming up. Financial aid night is going to be November 30th. Mrs. Turner is going to help us lead that. We do have a presenter coming in to talk specifically about financial aid, including FAFSA. That is going to be at 5:30. This graphic here, which is a financial aid checklist, if you use this link here, you'll be able to get this PDF. There is a lot of really good stuff on this checklist that has been put together by the Georgia Student Finance Commission. So specifically financial aid, you want to begin with doing the FAFSA. That is the free application for federal student aid. Remember that the application is going to be available December 1st this year. So you'll want to have prepared when you get ready to do your application, you'll want to have your social security number. Be careful, make sure it's the student's social security number or your alien registration number if you are not a US citizen. And I say be careful because we've had, parents mix their number up or transpose a number, and it just really kind of causes a problem. And it's more of a headache to try to get fixed later. So just be really careful with your number and make sure that you're putting it in accurately. If you're the student, you want to make sure that you got your parents' tax returns for 2023, the W-2s, and any other records of money earned. Bank statements will be helpful, records of investments, if applicable, um, records of untaxed income, if that's applicable, you and your parents' FSA ID to sign electronically. So there are some links here that are going to be helpful to you. So if you have not created an FSA ID, there's a link there for you to be able to go to that. You'll want to check your financial aid page for the college that you're interested in. Some colleges, especially private schools, will ask for a CSS profile, which gets a larger financial picture for the student's family. So you'll want to go on to the students to that college's page to just understand whether or not they will be expecting a CSS profile. Make sure you check for the net price calculator for the colleges that you're interested in. Sometimes you're going to see that the true cost of attendance is maybe a little bit higher than what you were anticipating because you weren't thinking about things like fees, books, travel. So it will really break down the costs that are associated with your child attending college. And usually they will break it down by the semester as well as the year. You want to know your deadlines, especially for financial aid and scholarships at the college that you are applying to. So as I talked about earlier, sometimes they have certain dates earmarked for giving out certain monies. So you'll want to make sure that you are in keeping with the deadlines for the college so you don't miss out on any additional funds that your child may have qualified for. And then there are some imposter websites out there. So this website here, studentaid.gov, this link should take you to the right place so you don't end up on a site that is not the right site to help you get going with the financial aid process. So scholarships. There are different types of scholarships. So usually I'll have a kid come and they'll say, hey, Ms. Johnson, I really want to get scholarships. And we have to kind of talk through different ways that they can get scholarships. So a student can get an institutional scholarship, and that's usually scholarships that are being offered through the college. Lots of times it's for freshmen based on a given criteria, and it can be generally found on the financial aid website for that particular college. Um, There are local scholarships, meaning there are organizations that are nearby. Sometimes, like your employer, or it will be like local banks or the Boy Scout Club, the Girl Scout Club, any church groups you're a part of, any service organizations that you may be a part of that your child can apply for those scholarships, or maybe not groups that you are a part of directly, but they are interested in supporting kids that are in the local area. Those are local scholarships. A lot of times it is easier to get your hands on the funds for the local scholarships because you're not having to compete with so many people across the nation for national scholarships. So that takes us to the next category, national scholarships. So there are some scholarships that are offered nationwide. Anybody across the country can apply to those particular scholarships. Lots of times they are much larger awards. So local awards tend to be smaller funds, and the national scholarships tend to be large awards. But again, they usually will get much larger responses from students that are interested because it is open nationwide. One of the biggest ones that people talk about is the Coca-Cola Scholarship. There's others like the Gates Scholarship, QuestBridge, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. So those are some of the big ones that kids across the country would be competing for to try to get those big funds for a national scholarship. There is something that sometimes people are not as familiar with called the Academic Common Market. That is where it's the SREB Academic Market Exchange. Students that live in a given state that may not have certain degrees available to them, or it's not widely available in their state. There is an exchange that has been developed for kids to be able to go to some of the surrounding states and get in-state tuition. So this link that's here, hyperlinked in red, will give you some more details about that, but that kind of opens up some more options for kids to be able to go to some of the nearby states and use the Academic Common Market to make that an affordable choice for them. You can go into Naviance and use that portal to do more research for scholarships, as well as other scholarship search engines like College Board has a great one. FastWeb is a really old one. So just choose a engine that you want to use or a search tool that you want to use, and then begin to build a listing of dates and deadlines, and use search criteria to try to narrow down some of the options for scholarship choices if you want to pursue that opportunity, because it can be lengthy and it can require a lot of work. So you really have to be organized if you decide that you want to pursue trying to get some scholarship funds. I mentioned that you can use Naviance for organizing your scholarships. This page here is just showing you how you can go about the search looking for national scholarships. Any local scholarships that have come to us, Ms. Buenaventura adds to our Naviance list so that kids can find those scholarships as well. This 1 through 4 directions here help you navigate through those different options to be able to add those scholarships to your list and kind of keep yourself organized. All right, so let's talk about Hope GPA. So every semester, we load transcripts from our Infinite Campus database. It goes over to the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and it is held in the database at georgiafutures.org for that state organization to create a Hope GPA for you, or a Hope transcript for you, where you will see your Hope GPA. It is important that you log on to Georgia Futures so that you are able to track how you are progressing for the Hope GPA. You do not want to wait to the end and then it come as a surprise what your standing is. We will be loading the latest information for Hope mid-September. So you should be able to go in and see the most up-to-date information that Georgia Futures would have at the end of September. You can look now, but there may be any additional grades that would have come in perhaps in the summertime that would have been uploaded mid-September, and then you'll see probably an updated GPA if there were additional grades at the end of the summer. I'm sorry, the end of September. So if you don't see your average when you go in, because usually that's a little hyperlink over to the side, it says my Hope GPA or my Hope average. If you don't see it, the first thing I would say to check is to go into your profile and look for your social security number. Most times that is what is wrong. Usually it is because you did not give the school system your social security number, or what you have put in for your profile does not match what we have in the system for your social security number. So that is the first thing we would tell you to check. If you notice that you don't have the number in or the number is wrong, bring in your social security card and we will have it corrected. If you notice that no, the number is right, but still you cannot get to your Hope average, then you'll want to kind of come in and let us try to troubleshoot to figure out what is going on. You really want to do that now. You don't want to wait till we get to the end of the year, because once you have graduated out of the system, you have to deal directly with Georgia Student Finance Commission to try to get anything fixed that might be wrong with your account. Excuse me. And then you'll be running up against a tight deadline with trying to get your funds before your college registration and all of that begins. So very important that you take care of that this year if you see anything wrong, and as early at the beginning of the year as you possibly can. Okay, so just a little note here. The high school nor anyone in Fulton County, we do not calculate the Hope nor the Zell GPA. We cannot calculate that. That is specifically done by the Georgia Student Finance Commission. So if you feel like something is wrong, we'll have to maybe put you in touch with somebody if we can't figure out how to explain to you why it is the way it is. But if there seems to be something wrong with the calculation, it is actually Georgia Student Finance Commission that would have to make the correction. Students to get a Hope average, or a Hope GPA rather, have to have a 3.0 core average. That is math, English, science, social studies, world language. There are a few other classes like AP Computer Science that will also be counted in that. But for the most part, it is inside of those 5: math, English, science, social studies, and world language. Students have to have a 3.0. It must be at least a 3.0. It cannot be almost. There is no rounding. Students must have 4 credits considered rigor points. This is a hyperlink. You can actually use that to go and see the full list of rigor points. Most kids are able to get to their rigor points just by taking advanced math, second level of world language. Usually our kids, their physics class, some advanced sciences. So they're usually able to get to the rigor points without much effort. But it is important that you track to make sure that your student is in line to get their rigor points. And when you are looking at the Hope transcript, you will see rigor courses marked as R. So that's how you know that that is a rigor course. Also on the transcript, it literally will say your rigor units are. So there'll be no confusion about how many rigor points you actually have. The core academic grades are from all 4 years of high school. Remember, middle school grades are not counted in that average. So anything you took, even if it was a high school level course that happened before you started 9th grade, that will not be in the Hope or Zell calculation. The weight is recalculated for Hope and Zell. So any course that received 7 points, that will be removed before they will do the recalculation. So it is removed from an honors class, an AP class, dual enrollment classes, all of that will be taken off before they will do the calculation. So a weight of a half a point is given for AP classes and dual enrollment classes after the calculation. So the conversion's on a 4.0 scale. So students that receive an A for a course after the 7 points were removed will get 4 points. If they received a B for a course after the 7 points were removed, they will get 3 points. A C for a course after the 7 points were removed, they will get 2 points. And if you fail the class, of course, you did not get 7 points, but you will get 0 points, and it is calculated. So if you took an AP class or a dual enrollment course, after those points were applied, an additional half point will be awarded for those particular classes. Also, remember, students have to do the FAFSA form, or you have to do the GSFAP form. That's the Georgia Student Financial Application. One of the two is required for the Hope Scholarship or for Zell Miller. There is like you can get all the information you could possibly want by using the hyperlink here, which will take you to the Georgia Student Financial Aid, Georgia Student Financial Commission's website, which is Georgia Futures, by using the link there, and it'll take you directly to the page about Hope and Zell. If you are interested in what the award amounts are for Hope and Zell, remember, Hope covers a portion of tuition. You actually can use this award chart that's here at the bottom. It's hyperlinked. You'll be able to put the institution down, and it will tell you exactly how much money they will give per credit hour, so that you do not have to be in the dark about how much money you will receive if you earn or if the student earns the scholarship. So Zell Miller. So Hope covered a portion of tuition. Zell Miller covers all of tuition. Students who have a core GPA of 3.7 and test scores of a 26 on the ACT or 1,200 on the SAT, plus they got their rigor points, those students will qualify for the Zell Miller Scholarship. There is another eligibility criteria. Students who are the valedictorian or the salutatorian of their particular school, those students would be Zell Miller scholars. The test scores, if you are eligible for Zell, you will have to upload your test scores directly to Georgia Futures. This is a hyperlink, so you can use this link here, which will take you to the Georgia Student Finance Commission's page for you to be able to upload your scores. If you want specific information about the Zell Miller Scholarship, you can click here. And then again, the Zell and the Hope Award chart is at the bottom. All right, so there's Hope Scholarship, there is Zell Miller Scholarship, but there's also Hope Grant, and then there is a Zell Miller Grant. In a nutshell, these are grants that are set aside for students that are going to some of our technical colleges, and they are going to be enrolling in certificate or diploma programs. The Hope Grant does not require students to have a specific GPA. There are requirements for checkpoints, what their GPA has to be at the checkpoints. Is 2.0 for the Hope Grant, and it is, I don't see it here, but I believe it's a 3.5 for the Zell Miller grant. So again, the award charts are here at the bottom. More information specifically about the grants are here at using this hyperlink. So if you think that your child is going to go to a technical school, you can learn more about Hope and Zell Miller grants to support your child to attend one of those colleges. There is also a video here at the bottom, a YouTube video, so it will go into the details about the Hope and Zell Miller grant. All right, so some important things. We've got a little hodgepodge here. of things we want to make sure that you guys are aware of. So some of you, when you start doing your applications, they will ask you some questions to kind of try to get some context on you as a applicant. The total number of students in your class is 479. I would suggest you just take a little picture, kind of have this somewhere so that you can reference it as you're doing your applications, because it will be like the same questions over and over again. I want to remind you, if you had not gotten the word at this point, we do not rank our students. We do not rank. We don't give a percentile. We don't give a decile. We will not give that information to the parents nor the colleges. So if you have a question asking about rank, put NA, not applicable. The only people that we will take a look at rank for is for the valedictorian or the salutatorian designation. Those are the two people. Of course, we have to know who has the highest GPA and who has the second highest GPA. The valedictorian has the highest. The salutatorian has the second highest GPA in the class. That will be reported after the first semester grades are posted. Your numeric average is weighted. That's what we're going to report. I mentioned that earlier. It is a weighted average and it is on a 100-point scale. We offer 18 honors classes and we offer 30 AP classes with no max. So we don't have a cap on how many AP classes you can take or how many honors classes you take at a time. So if you see any questions like that, this is what this information is for. Most times we are answering that. The counselors are answering that. But if you run across a place and they are asking you for this type of detail, these are some generic answers that you can provide to help you get through your application. All right, so I've already had a student reach out to me and say, Ms. Johnson, what is my GPA? We do not do the GPA. Now, I say that and then I have to qualify. If you were to pick print a copy of your transcript right now, you will see it says GPA average, and then you will see a numeric average listed. I am not certain why that happened this year on our transcript, but most times when a college is asking for a GPA, they are asking for your average converted on a 4.0 scale. That we do not provide. Most colleges will convert your numeric average to a 4.0 scale or whatever scale they are using. They will do the conversion themselves. But if they ask you for a GPA, you are simply going to give them your numeric average because that is all that you have. And that is also what we are going to provide. So it is going to be on a 100-point scale, and it is that total numeric average that you see on the top left of your transcript. The total average, not the semester average, total average. It is cumulative. We standardly report the weighted average, but of course, if you need to have the unweighted average, like I said, you can get that choice form. There is on that slide that I had before, that is a PDF. You can actually print it off, but you have to physically bring it into the office. You can't email it to the counselor. Bring it into the office and give it to Ms. Movisia, who will keep it in the records department. I want you to check directly with the colleges if you are interested in knowing what their conversion are. A lot of these colleges have these really awesome blogs that they keep up with, like Georgia Tech has one, UGA has one, and they answer questions. They're so transparent in their process. It is usually not a secret how they are doing their conversions because they don't want to answer the same question over and over and over again. So if you are curious, all you have to do is search for the information to know how they're going to do the conversion so that you can go in by hand and you can convert yourself. So if you don't want to be in the dark about that, I would go ahead and just research it so that you can do that conversion and see what number they would have come up with or they're going to come up with when you apply. So SAT and ACT, I've already kind of mentioned it, so I'm not going to go into big detail, but make sure you've done your registration. If you still need to take a test, excuse me, or if you have not taken a test, you go directly to those websites to get your test registered for. So application fee waivers. Now, I'm not sure what happened last year, but I think there was a little bit of confusion. Application fee waivers are typically set aside for students who are in need, who have a financial need to have their application fees covered. The criteria that's listed here is what the counselors are asked to review with the family to see that they meet the need guidelines. So if you mark on your Common App that you need a fee waiver, the next thing that's going to happen is we are going to get a notice from as a counselor, and then we will usually reach out to your mom or your dad and say, your Johnny said that you need a fee waiver. Do you meet this criteria? Usually what happens is the family says, huh? Okay, so make sure before you ask for a fee waiver that you would meet these guidelines. So it would be, it would very easily line up when I ask your mom or your dad whether or not you meet any of these guidelines, that you really do need to have the fee waiver applied in your case. Ms. Bonaventura in the counseling office will have those fee waivers. But again, like I said, the counselors will have to sign off on them in the Common App to verify that you meet the guidelines for the request. Oftentimes when students they meet the standard for the guidelines, they also qualify for SAT waivers, and with doing the SAT waivers come the fee waivers automatically. So if you have done an SAT with a waiver or an ACT with a waiver, you would have had access to see that there's also a college waiver that is a part of that process. So college-bound athletes. So in the counseling office, we don't know a lot about NCAA, but we want to just make sure we make mention of it, because those students, oftentimes there is a little bit of a different process for those students that are coming in as Division I or Division II athletes. They have additional things that they have to fill out, like they have to get through the eligibility clearinghouse. If you are a college athlete and you have not done the clearinghouse, it is super important that you do that, because that determines what kind of contact a college can make with you, and it determines whether or not they are able to see if you have met the standard for NCAA. You'll want to make sure that you reach out to Ms. Hagan. Here's her email address here, to request your transcript, because she will actually upload it into the system. This is the website for the clearinghouse is listed here as well on this slide, so that you can go in and make sure you've created an account and gotten yourself through that process. And as well, when you take the SAT and ACT, because there is a requirement there that you put 9999, so that the scores can be sent into the NCAA clearinghouse, so that they have that information as well. Remember, the NCAA requirements may differ a little bit from the graduation requirements. There are some things that kids will be able to do, and they will meet their graduation requirements for high school, but they will not meet the NCAA standards. So we try to advise you guys about that as you go along, but we want to make sure that you are clear that just graduating from high school does not mean that you have met the NCAA requirements. So you want to make sure you go through that clearinghouse so everything can check out, and you can you can get through your process without an issue. All right, so we're going back to the college applications, and we're back to this graphic here. So these parts here that are all in yellow, when we talked about the application, all of this stuff that the student can take care of. The student will be going to different people and getting this information, and much of this is going to be here at the high school, except for the application. You're going to do that online. But everything else, for the most part, you're going to go to different sources here at the high school to get. The SAT and ACT, remember, those are done outside of the school. That is done with those companies in particular. So here I just listed out basic steps. So if a kid was like, I am confused, I'm not sure where to start, I don't know what to do, I have laid out a pretty generic way to just get started with applying. In this top blue box here, these are some sources that you can use to go and find college applications, or you can simply go to the college's website and you can look for apply. Most of the colleges have made it so easy that when you go onto their main page, you see a big old apply button right there to make it easy for you to get to the application process as fast as possible. I do want to highlight a couple of things that I've seen kind of put kids down the wrong path that I want to clear up. When kids are leaving high school and going to college, you're going to look for undergraduate. Make sure that's your selection, undergraduate, not graduate. Make sure that you look for the steps for freshman applicants. You are not going to be considered a transfer student until, well, they usually have the criteria, but most times you have under 30 credit hours for dual enrollment. So I know sometimes that trips students up, or for college classes rather. No, a lot of times it trips students up because you're like, well, I've taken some college classes and I was admitted to Georgia State to do dual enrollment. Does that make me a transfer student? Read through the information for the college. They will give you the criteria for which category you're falling in. But in 99% of the cases, you will be applying as a freshman applicant and you will be an undergraduate. Look for an application checklist so that you have something easy to reference to make sure that you've covered all of your items. Usually when you've made an account, you will see like an application status that you can kind of keep going to, and it will say, oh, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. Sometimes that'll throw you off a little bit because you may have sent something in and it has not been applied to your account yet. So it will keep saying that you're missing it until they've updated their systems. So that's why I'm asking you to kind of come up with or look for the application checklist so that you can kind of check it off when you know you've done it. And then you can kind of relax until it updates into their system and you not be worried that they keep sending you an email saying something is missing because you already know you sent it in. As you make an account, because every single application you're going to have to do, you're going to have to make an account. Make sure you write everything down. Put it in a safe place. Don't let your mom do your account for you and then you're like, I can't figure out how to get into the account. My mom opened up this. No, you do the account. Share the information with your mom. If your mom doesn't trust you, y'all sit down together and do it together, but you make sure you have access to all of that information. Why? If something goes wrong and you have to call the college, they are usually not going to talk to your mom. They are going to ask for you. So you need to make sure you have that information where you can reference it. Any pins they assign you, passwords, usernames, make sure you pick a username that is an appropriate username. Do not have anything questionable in your username. And while I'm mentioning that, I'm going to say the same thing for your email. Make sure you use an appropriate email. It does not have some words in there that would be really considered inappropriate or not professional. Also, never use your school email when you are doing your college application process. Our email will not accept outsiders emailing. Any outside institution cannot email to your school email. You have to use a personal email for this process. If you don't have one, it's time to create one. Use a Gmail account. Send your scores directly from SAT and ACT to the college. We've already talked about that. And then this is what I was talking about. Ms. Blunt was referencing. If you need a letter of recommendation, make sure you turn in your senior profile in Teams 10 school days before it's due. add your counselor to your recommendation list. I want you guys to know that we can see if you have not completed your application. When you are in Common App, we can see that you just clicked the buttons that you're going to apply to the college, but you have not actually applied to the college. It is important that you complete your application because we are going to be looking to see, okay, he may have just clicked this button. He's not really applying to the school. You have to make sure you get your application, your full application done. If you need the teacher's recommendation, not all colleges require this. So only ask for it if they require it. You need to ask your teacher directly if they're willing to write for you, and then send them a copy of your senior profile or your resume so that your teacher has something to reference and can write a really full letter for you. And then list the teacher on the application. Remember, application fees are expensive. They can add up really quickly. They can be anywhere from $20 to $85 each. So you want to make sure that you are being cognizant of how many colleges you're adding to your list because you will have to pay for each one of them. If the application is completed directly through the college, make sure you follow the directions for the transcript through the Scrib order. That is a hyperlink. It will take you straight to the document or straight to the form that you have to fill out in Scrib order to request the transcript. But do not request a transcript if you're using Common or if you're using Coalition. We will do that directly in those systems. Okay, so these deadlines here in the school holiday, this is really what Ms. Blunt was talking about. So it's super important that you are cognizant of office hours. So sometimes I'll get an email and a kid is emailing me and it's a Saturday. Yes, I know that that's time that you're not at school, you're not busy, you're able to kind of take care of some housekeeping things, but you should not expect that I am reading email over the weekend. You should not expect that counselors will be reading emails or looking for any documents during holidays. You need to only count school days to process transcripts, school reports, letters of recommendation requests. Make sure you are looking at the actual 10 school days. So just as a reminder, we've kind of put some generic timeframes in here to kind of help you stay within these guidelines. For the October 15th deadline, which is a very popular deadline, it's our first one. Students must submit their request no later than September 30th. Now remember, big deadlines mean lots of people are applying. So if you turn your stuff in on September 30th, you are probably, for your counselor, one of 20. That means it's going to take us a little longer to get through 20 of them coming in at the same time. So be mindful if you get close to those deadline time frames that there's going to be a surge of kids asking for that information at the same time, and we'll be processing them in the order that we got them. November 1st, the deadline, you need to make sure you turn in your request by October 18th. December 1st deadline, turn it in by November 10th. Deadlines in the first week of January, you need to make sure you turn it in the first week of December. Why? Because we're only here 3 weeks in December, right? So we'll be within that 10-day time frame, and we need to make sure that we don't get in finals and you don't miss somebody because we got too close to us leaving for the holiday. UGA's regular admissions deadline is January 1st. That's the regular admissions. Remember the different types of admissions processes that I talked about. Regular admission for them is January 1st, not early action. Georgia Tech's regular admission is January 4th. Now, we are not going to be back in session. So you have to make sure that you turn your stuff in early December if you are considering one of these deadlines. Okay, so this information down here at the bottom is just a reiteration of what I was saying about holiday breaks do not count as school days, and that the high volume times during those really popular deadlines. So make sure you kind of plan ahead, okay? All right, some other things to note. It's not really efficient to use Common App or Coalition if you're only applying to one college using that source. Now, I say that, and there's a lot of colleges you don't have a choice. If that's the only source they've got, that's the only source they've got. But if they give you a choice to use their institutional application versus the Common App, and you know you're not going to apply to another school using that platform, I would suggest, and most counselors would suggest, you use the institutional application because you will do less work doing that. Not all colleges require letters of recommendation. Again, we will only do it if that college requires it. Some colleges just want a school report, and we will always send that. Letters of recommendation are only submitted directly to the institution or a scholarship organization. So if you send me something saying, hey, I need you to give it to me, we don't do that. You need to get us a direct source so that we can send the information directly to the organization. And that is, some kind of application email that they use. Make sure you get us a direct source. Counselors do not manage teachers' recommendations. I talked about that, so I won't say any more about that. At the end of the year, students are going to complete a senior exit survey. And during that senior exit survey, we will ask you where the final transcript goes. Don't ask for midterms or final transcripts now. A midterm report is after your first semester grades. So we won't have that until mid-January, somewhere around the 20th to the 22nd. That's when we're going to have the first set of grades posted for the year. So don't ask for mid grades now because we don't have them to give to you until we are in January. Final transcripts are your actual last grades, and that is where the transcript is to be sent to the college that you've decided you're going to go to. So you shouldn't ask for final transcripts before you've made decisions about what college you're actually going to attend. And then we will take that information in the senior exit survey. So we will know from that survey, which we talk about the senior exit survey when we do graduation information, all of that's going to be together. And so that's around April that we begin to talk about that. You'll be able to report where to send your final transcript on your senior exit survey at that time. All right, so here's some closing thoughts about college applications. So what to work on? Work on your applications now. Do your Common App, do your essay prompts now. Here's my suggestion. Most kids want to start their applications first. They want to hurry up and get their applications, get everything queued up, and then they want to work on their essays afterwards. I am going to suggest that you do it the other way around. Get going on your essays first, because this is how I think kids miss deadlines. They are waiting on their essay and they're hoping for the creative juices to flow, and then they get to the end and they're right up on their deadline. They can't pull it off. Get your essay done first. The application really isn't that time consuming. It might take you a couple of hours to get everything pulled together for the actual application if your essays are already ready to go. You can get the essay prompts usually by going onto the college's website. If there's a supplemental or going onto Common App, you can get the prompts. Get going on the essays first. Don't worry so much about queuing up your application. You do have to be mindful of your deadlines, but that essay is really what holds kids up. So make sure you don't wait to the last part or save the essays for last. That is how I see kids missing their deadlines. And a lot of times a reason why a kid decides not to apply at all because it couldn't pull off the essay. Get going on that first. So work on your applications, get your essays, get working on that stuff now. Send your applications when you have it ready. When it's ready, you just send it. You do not have to wait for your recommendations to be ready. You do not have to wait for transcripts. You do not have to wait for your counselor's recommendation, your counselor's school report. All of that is considered a supplemental document. The application, when you have all of your parts of your application, your essay, all that stuff is ready to go, send it. The rest of the stuff can trail. So do not wait. I had kids last year and every year actually. They are like, I'm like, how come you didn't finish your application? You're like, oh, I was waiting for you. No, I'm waiting for you. You cannot see anything in Common App unless your application is complete. My part will just sit in the database. The counselor's portion will simply sit in the database if you did not finish your application. So make sure you get your application done. Also, make sure you touch base with Ms. Hagan. If you are a athlete, check your emails for messages from us. Check your emails from the colleges to make sure they're not contacting you about items that they're saying that they need. Make sure that you are checking your college accounts for your application status to make sure you don't have some missing items. All right, so we've come to the end. Now, if you want to sit and talk with your counselor to set up a check-in meeting, we've set these up for like a little 10-minute meeting. If you need longer, of course, we'll give you longer. But these links are live. Remember, we're going to post this presentation so that you can always go back to it. But the senior check-in meetings are open for our seniors to kind of come in and just talk with us about where they are with the process, what they're worried about. I've read essays. I've talked about, college lists. So whatever's on your mind, whatever you need help with, this is your time to kind of sit and come in and talk with us. So these appointment dates are between the 7th and the 17th. We are going to just have all of that blocked out for our seniors so that we can give you guys the time that you need to ask us questions and sit and chat with us. All right, so I believe that the counselors have been in the chat. Ms. Blunt, are you on?
Sure am.
Do we want to open up the floor for questions?
I think we can. I was just working on typing back a response to a student, but let's see. Yeah, 1 second. Let me just verbally answer this one. A student, because I'm thinking this is going to be applicable to other students as well. So a student has asked, has said some colleges make recommendations optional. Should we request recommendation letters to increase our chances of admission? And Ms. Johnson, you let me know if you'd answer this differently. So my answer to this student was going to be, for colleges that show rec letters are optional, that indicates that the letters are not necessarily an important piece of their review process. And what I've seen is most colleges that have optional rec letters, what I've seen in just browsing Common App earlier with you today, it seems to be teacher rec letters that are the optional ones. So if for some reason, if you're applying to, say, UGA, which will accept a letter, and Vanderbilt, who does require a letter from a teacher, if you're asking Miss Smith for a rec letter, she's already going to have to write one rec letter. It's fine to go ahead and add her to UGA since you're already going to have to add her to Vanderbilt. That being said, again, just want to emphasize, if they're saying it's an optional thing, they are going to review you just in the same light as any other student that does not have a recommendation letter. Anything you would add to that?
No, I would agree. I think if you find that you are on the wait list, that is definitely where additional supplemental things are going to be helpful at that point.
Yeah.
So I would say, or if you feel like your case is pretty weak and you've got, some outstanding situation where a rec letter, could explain something that you weren't able to provide in the application, that would be where I might add it. I would only add it if it is going to be something that's going to be outstanding, that they could not glean in any other way. Otherwise, I do feel like it kind of falls to the background for a student.
Okay, going through, let's see. Couple other questions. Can a student see that a counselor recommendation is required on Common App I would have to review the student side of Common App. Since we've been away from using the direct Common App site for a couple of years now, I'd have to see the student side to know that. Seeing our side, it is viewable. You can also, within your Common App account, there should be a pretty detailed chart that shows literally every single college in it that takes Common App. And then there's a whole bunch of columns of all the different pieces that are required for it. So you might want to look for that as well. Let's see, any other questions in here? I think that was answered. The major difference between early action versus early decision. I'm pretty sure someone answered that, but just in case. Oh, yep, Ms. Chilson answered it. Early action is not binding. You can apply to as many schools as you want early action, but of course, keep in mind the app fees can add up. Early decision and early and restrictive early action. So early decision is similar to restrictive early action. Both of them you can only apply to one. The difference is that early decision is binding, meaning if you're admitted, you're committing to go there. Restrictive early action is not binding. Let's see, anything else? Scrolling down. A student is asking about college essays. And if there's help available for them. Ms. Chilson answered that a little bit earlier in the presentation. The college essay guy, Google him. He has a whole bunch of blogs and websites and stuff. That is a really good place to go. If your student is in an English class this year at Chattahoochee, your English teacher will likely be doing some sort of activity around the college application essay piece. Let's see. Thank you. The senior appointment dates are between the 7th and 17th of September. So we'll be doing those. Gosh, that's next week. Goodness. And then let's see. Yes, Ms. Chilson added the restrictive early action. A little bit of information there, just what I had just said.
Ms. Blunt, it's
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Turner. I wanted to
perfect.
hi, I just wanted to make sure that students know that the meetings, the 17th is a Sunday. So I just didn't want students thinking we were going to be having meetings over the weekend. So
no.
the 15th is technically the last day that we're going to have our appointments
Perfect.
set up.
Yes.
I just didn't
Yep.
want there to be any confusion for students reaching out or trying to schedule an appointment and not being able to.
Perfect. Yes. And then the last question I'm seeing that does not appear to be answered yet is, apart from having a social security number, through what other ways can I apply for Hope Zellmiller? So there are some legal / citizenship requirements that play into a student being eligible to apply for Hope and Zellmiller, and that's because those are federal financial aid options. So I would recommend you go onto gafutures.org. That's like the student website for Georgia Student Finance Commission. And Ms. Chilson is actively answering that in the chat right now as well. She posted earlier that she does not have access to a microphone. But yeah, georgiafutures.org is going to have a lot of information about the citizenship or like the legal status requirements that students have to meet to be eligible for Hope and Zellmiller.
Also, as far as application is concerned, you would do the FAFSA or you would do the the Georgia Financial application. It's one of those two.
Mm-hmm. That is it for the chat for right now.
Does anyone want to unmic themselves and ask a question? Or unmute themselves, not unmic, unmute themselves and ask a question.
Okay, two more questions just came in. Sorry, if anybody has any questions that they want to ask verbally, go ahead and raise your hand. There's a hand raise feature at the top bar of your screen. someone's asking, when do you apply for the GSF app? So the GSF app and FAFSA, both of them are application options for Zell Miller and Hope Scholarship. GSF app, I can never say that, is if you only want to apply for Hope or Zell Miller. Your award amount for Hope and Zell Miller will not differ depending on which of the two you use. If you want to be considered for additional federal aid beyond just Hope or Zell Miller, then FAFSA is the way to go, because then you can qualify for unsubsidized, subsidized loans, Pell Grant, federal student work aid, federal. Oh my gosh, I just lost the word for that. So basically, like working a job on campus, there's a way to get additional funding that way. Yes, can you apply for one or the other for the FAFSA? Yes, so either the FAFSA or the GSF app, either of those will qualify you for Hope and Zell. And then we've got another question about when do you, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say, like, when do they apply?
Yes.
Remember December 1st is the opening
Yes.
this year.
So yeah, December 1st is the opening for FAFSA for the fall 2024 school year, which would be our current seniors. I have not heard of an opening date for GSF app, and that's the specific question from this person. Georgia Futures, their website, that's where you would do the GSF app. They would tell you if it's open. If it is open, I mean, whether it's open today, whether it's open in December 1st, they're not going to fully review the application until after students graduate from high school and their final Hope GPA is calculated and posted. So if it's open right now, you're welcome to go ahead and apply, or you can, wait a little bit if you want to. Yes, someone asked about transcripts automatically uploaded to Georgia Futures. Yeah, the county takes care of that. A student asking about a parent having served in the military, and are there any benefits that can be used when applying to college? That might be something your parent, if a parent has served in the military, they probably know about student benefits related to that. That might be, a little bit of a Google search. If you're really not sure where to start with that, I mean, I could try to help with that, if I had a student that was asking me that on my caseload, but I would say start with your parent. They probably are going to have the most access to that information, since it would be tied to their service. Graduation date and or location yet for our seniors, that's still tentative. The county is still finalizing those details. I would imagine it's probably Gas South Arena, and probably the week of, sorry, let me pull up my calendar. Ms. Johnson, you think it's going to be the week of May 20th?
I think we
Possibly.
probably, well, I would hesitate on saying much of anything.
Okay.
Because they are finalizing some stuff, and I don't want to. I would hate for us to go on record saying something and then, yeah.
Okay, so ignore what I said. That is not happening.
But I can promise that we will make sure it gets posted on the senior page as soon as it is publicly available.
Yeah, the county has to work out contracts and details and stuff like that with the venues. Let's see. And I'm going to give you the same date, the same information. The question about graduation date and how many tickets do we get, that's still all kind of pending. And
Yeah.
again, we'll share all that one as soon as we get it.
Remember,
Let's
it will
see.
always go to that senior page, because as soon as it's public information, we will be making sure that someone posts that so that it is available for everyone to be able to reference.
Yes. And then the last question I'm seeing in the chat is, in the honors section on the Common App, can we put any sort of awards, for example, that like a pathway completion? Yes, anything along those lines. anything academic, athletic, artistic, anything along those lines is completely fine. Okay, a couple more questions. Senior page, if you go on just the front page of the school website, chatcougar.com, I believe it's on the right side. Let's see.
It's at the bottom. It's at the bottom and there's a little graduation hat.
Yes. Scroll down a little bit, there's 3 columns of links. And then the caps and gowns we can purchase. So the caps and gowns are completely separate from PTO, completely not even, you don't go through OSP for that. There was information that just went out about that. I want to say within the past day or 2. It was an email blast sent to all parents. But you should also be able to find it on the senior page too. And are caps and gowns the same as the past few years? That's a really good question.
So I would say if you all have specific questions about graduation, I would direct your questions to Dr. Ingram. Not Dr. Ingram, I just mixed her name up. Dr. Ingrid Parham,
Yes.
because she is in charge of graduation, so she will know what decisions have been made pertaining to graduation.
Yes.
I would say that I know she's working out some details, so if you try to email her like right now, there may be you might get some responses that says, hold on a minute, we're trying to get some details down, but specific things, probably in the next couple of months, she's gonna be the right person to ask because she is in charge of that process.
Then another question that came in for, I'm betting the student is referring to Common App, current or most recent courses section that we are taking. Are we supposed to report all the courses we are taking this year? So I'm not sure for this student if they're talking about just a general section of Common App or if they're talking about there's a section in Common App called courses and grades. That section is only required, that specific section titled courses and grades is only required for certain colleges. So what you should do in that case is make sure you enter all the colleges you're considering applying to before you complete that section. It's very I mean, I've definitely had kids in the past who said they spent all this time completing the courses and grades section on Common App only to find out that they're not applying to any college that needs it. If you're talking about a separate section that is just, a general Common App question section, for a student who is not yet registered for dual enrollment classes for next semester, but you want to indicate that you're going to be taking a college course. Ms. Johnson, I don't know what you think about this, but I guess you could always say something about like college course TBD, or I don't know, something along those lines. If you feel like you need to put something in there, I'm not sure what other way that a student could indicate that.
So I do think that the question seems to be asking about the current senior schedule. So yes, there are going to be plenty of places where you're going to self-report the senior schedule. If you are a dual enrollment student, I do think it's appropriate for you to put down the courses you intend to take for second semester, just like if we had a senior schedule and we put down the courses that are on the schedule. If you change that schedule, we would have to turn in another form. So if you put down a college class that you plan on taking and then you change your mind, we will have to do a different report and say your schedule is different. So I think it's fine for you to indicate the college class you intend to take, but know that if you do not take that class, we'll have to submit another report that shows that you changed what the schedule was.
Yep, good point. Any other last minute questions? Looks like we're good. If anybody has any questions that they think of, they can always ask them in the senior check-in meeting that you book with your counselor,
Yes.
and then you can get answered then. Good job, Ms. Johnson.
So I want to thank you all for staying with us this evening. I know it's a long day when you've got full day of school and then you have a evening program. So thank you all so much for joining us. I thank you so much to the counselors for jumping on that chat and being quick fingers. All right, you guys, looking forward to having you guys meet with us next week and us having this kickoff to this college season. You all have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.